Hello everyone watching at home, you're with Sarva McClinton from Adelaide Eternal, bringing you another 7-minute 7-point series deck tech. Today I'm bringing you my deck I call Bant Superfriends. So it's a Super Friends deck, it's got a bunch of Planeswalkers. If that's what you like, then this is a deck you'll like too. Also, if you hate Kespile and you really want to beat Grixis control, this is the deck for you too. So the reason that the Kespile deck, the Grixis control deck, has been the best control deck in the format for the last few months is because it's really good against the mid-range decks that were traditionally good against control. So the reason that is the case is because mid-range decks use things like equipment in the form of Skullclamp and Batterskull or Sword of Fire and Ice. And then they also use Birthing Pod, and they pod their way up a chain and so on and so forth. And normally, control decks find it really hard to deal with artifacts, but for Kespile, you've got 3 to 4 main deck artifact hate pieces, and then a bunch more from the side. So, what's the good thing? What's the best thing to do against control decks? Basically, the traditionally best things to do, aside from equipment and pod, have been Planeswalkers. And the other thing is manlands. Now, we have a whopping 4 manlands here, one of which has hexproof, which is really good also with your equipment package. So the argument here is, why do we not splash black? Because it's arguably correct to go 4 colours and have Dark Bant. However, we need to fit space in for 4 manlands, so that's one reason, because that takes up the black slots in your mana base. And also, there is an argument to be said for the slippery slope that you have with greed. And this is a bit of insulation against greed. If you keep a 3-colour deck, first of all, you're going to stop getting the feeling of, oh, I want to put Leovold in here. Okay, yeah, that's great. Then I'll put Siege Rhino. Oh, well, I may as well put Lingering Souls. And then bit by bit, you end up having a true 4-colour deck, and you get wrecked by the Pinpoint Wasteland, or a Pinpoint Strip Mine, or Blood Moon, for example. Whereas here, you can fetch out your basics in those matchups and be pretty confident you can play most of your spells with 1 mana dork. So that's the reason why you don't have that. And now let's look at why we play the Planeswalker package. So the way the deck ticks is you have 3 game plans. The first game plan is turn 1 mana dork, turn 2 hard to answer threat. True Name Nemesis, Geist of Saint Trapped, or the amazing tempo play of Spell Quell their turn 2 play and be ahead on mana and also bashing in the air. These are really hard to answer from your opponent, but what you can do is you can back up these 3 drops or 2 powerful 2 drops with soft permission. So you play a form of tempo plan there. So that's game plan 1. Game plan 2 is Skullclamp. Now, you want to clamp later in the game, actually, with this kind of deck. So gain as much value as you can against the Kespile decks, where you find your Skullclamp, you protect it, and then you clamp away a bunch of dudes, you draw 6 cards, and then they remove it. So you basically treat it like a double Ancestral Recall in a way. You have so many ways to find Skullclamp in Steelshaper's Gift, Trinket Mage, Stoneforge Mystic, and Deadeye Quartermaster. And Quartermaster also plays the strategy of turn 4 Quartermaster, turn 5 Batterskull, if that's the way that you want to play the game. So that's game plan 1. Game plan 2. Now, game plan 3 is your Planeswalkers. So what you do is, in the early to mid game, you play as much of a 1-for-1 game as possible, occasionally stealing a 2-for-1 when you can, but you trade with, let's say, your mid-range opponent until both of you are low on resources. You counter their Siege Rhino or something that would generate value like a Birthing Pod, and then you're empty-handed, so you slam a Planeswalker. Then one of these Planeswalkers will run away with the game. You've seen Elspeth, Knight-Errant, and Garruk and Gideon produce tokens before. You've seen Jace the Mind Sculptor brainstorm constantly and just go haywire with card advantage, but you probably haven't seen Tamiyo. Tamiyo is such a powerful Planeswalker that hasn't found a home in Highlander because Bant and also the way its abilities line up just haven't really found a home. So if you look at it this way, this is really good against the creature matchups, because you either plus it and say, please don't attack me, because you don't want them to, they don't want you to draw cards, but they have to attack Tamiyo, otherwise she'll do it again. So you start drawing cards, and then you start to deploy other Planeswalkers and so on and so forth. Alternately, you aggressively tap down creatures and allow yourself to push damage through. There's really, really cool ways that you can use her, and she's extremely powerful, and arguably in this deck with Mana Dorks, she often draws more cards than Jace the Mind Sculptor, and it's insane. Your counter spells are soft, but they really help you against your combo matchup too, which makes this arguably better than Junk. Go look at the Junk video to see the general mid-range game strategy that you can use, and then you have your creature removal package here, and Bant Charm is basically awesome. So let's have a look at the sideboard. In the sideboard, you have your anti-creature matchup. Like I said before, you're actually really good against creatures, and Sower of Temptation is one of these great removal spells, as is Engineered Explosives and the Tempo Play and Submerge, but you can also break the mirror with Grip of Phyresis, grabbing their equipment and using them against them. Then you have your anti-control package. So against control, Thrun and Sylvan Library are just absolutely backbreaking. And then you have a little bit more permission as well to protect your tempo plan when you just say want to protect your true name and ride it to victory. And then speaking of true name, if you can't counter their true name permanently, then you've got Council's Judgment to get rid of it. Same with Planeswalkers, because sometimes Planeswalkers, when your opponent has them and you don't have them, can be hard to deal with. So that's really good to bring in. Then you have your anti-combo strategies, and against Built from Scrap, you've got Seeds of Innocence and Energy Flux, which are fantastic. Then here I've brought in 3 Graveyard Hate strategies because we have Reanimator in our meta, but you can shave on that if Reanimator doesn't pop up as much, but also it's really good against things like Life from the Loam and such. Then we have Aethersworn Canonist, Negate and Flusterstorm that can be brought in against Storm, giving you a really nice, well-rounded sideboard strategy that doesn't have Pyroblast. So if you like the look of the deck and you really, really want to play with Planeswalkers, especially wanting to sleeve up Tamiyo Field Researcher, this is the perfect deck for you. So tell me what you think of Bant Superfriends, see if it fits in your meta, and also have fun laughing at those Grixis control players and deploying a Planeswalker, following it up with a second Planeswalker after the dust has settled. It's a lot of fun, and tell me what you think. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Sarvin McClinton from Adelaide Eternal.